They lived here long before the first settlers came to this land. Today, over 5 million Native Americans still call the United States home. They belong to hundreds of tribes, each with its own culture, language, and traditions. Many of them live close to the land, with deep respect for nature and the spirits that guide it. Their lives are rooted in ceremony, community, and memory. But today, those roots are under threat. Across the country, Native communities face harsh and often invisible suffering. Some live without clean water, in homes with no electricity or plumbing. Others watch as sacred lands are sold, mined, or fenced off. In many places, they must go to court just to defend the places their ancestors walked. They are not asking for charity, they are asking for respect and protection. The United States once promised these nations land, rights, and support. Those promises were often broken. And now, the question remains: should America step in to help, or leave these nations to survive alone? Can a country claim to honor Native heritage while ignoring the people still living it? In this video, we look at 10 places where this struggle is unfolding right now. From Arizona to the Dakotas, we'll follow stories of loss, resistance, and hope. These are not distant tales from history. They are happening today, and they raise a question we all need to answer. In this video, we follow the stories of people still fighting to protect their land, rights, and way of life. But before we start, here's a little question to entertain you. What is the largest annual Native American festival in the U.S.? A. First Nations Festival. B. Spirit of the Land. C. Powwow USA. D. Gathering of Nations. Share your opinion in the comments and patiently watch this video till the end to find out the truth. Navajo without water. In the United States today, running water is something most people take for granted, but for many families on the Navajo Nation, it remains out of reach. The Navajo Nation spans parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. It covers more than 27,000 square miles, making it larger than 10 U.S. states. Yet tens of thousands of residents live without basic plumbing. Some homes have no sinks, no toilets, and no indoor showers. Water must be hauled in barrels from distant pumps or delivered by truck. This isn't a new problem. It's a result of decades of neglect, underfunding, and broken promises. In many Navajo communities, there are no pipelines connecting to public water systems. Tribal governments have asked for infrastructure support for years, but progress has been slow. Many households survive on just a few gallons of water per day. That's far below the national average of 80 to 100 gallons per person. In the hot desert climate, this shortage becomes even more dangerous. The Navajo Nation is home to over 400,000 enrolled members, making it the largest Native American tribe in the United States. About 175,000 people live on reservation land full-time. While the population has steadily grown on paper, many families have been forced to move away due to lack of services. Water is the most urgent factor. Without access to clean and reliable water, some young families choose to raise their children off-reservation. Others leave in search of work or basic health care. Over the past 3 decades, this quiet migration has reshaped Navajo communities, leaving gaps where traditions once thrived. Legal battles have made the situation worse. In 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the Navajo Nation in a case about water rights. The tribe argued that an 1868 treaty required the government to secure access to water, but the court decided that the federal government had no obligation to do so. That decision left thousands of families without a clear path forward, while other communities along the Colorado River enjoy steady access. The Navajo people remain in limbo. Some nonprofits have stepped in to help. Organizations like Dig Deep have built solar-powered water systems for remote homes, but these efforts only reach a small portion of the population. Tribal leaders continue to push for large-scale solutions. One proposed project could bring water to hundreds of communities, but it would take years and billions of dollars to complete. Until then, many Navajo residents will continue living as if modern infrastructure never arrived. Water is not just a resource in Navajo culture. It's part of a sacred balance between land and life. When wells run dry, it's not only a health crisis, it's a spiritual one. What do you think? Should the U.S. government invest in basic services for its First Peoples? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And now let's dive in. Legal status. Many people are surprised to learn that Native Americans are citizens of the United States. That wasn't always the case. Full citizenship came in 1924 through the Indian Citizenship Act. Today, most Native Americans live in cities or towns, but millions still reside on or near reservations. These are legally defined tribal lands with limited self-government. Life on reservations comes with different rules, fewer resources, and a separate legal identity. Native Americans hold dual citizenship. They are both citizens of the United States and members of their tribal nations. Each tribe has its own enrollment system based on ancestry or community connection. Once enrolled, members may vote in tribal elections, access tribal services, and live under tribal jurisdiction. Some tribes run their own schools, police, and courts. Others depend more on state or federal systems. Legal status affects everything from housing to healthcare. Education is one example. Native children attend public schools, but some tribes operate their own schools or colleges. These places focus on both academic subjects and cultural survival. Language classes, ceremonies, and tribal history are part of the curriculum. Yet funding is often limited and rural access can be poor. Some Native students leave their communities for better opportunities, while others stay and struggle to preserve what remains. Most Native Americans today live outside reservations, but many keep strong ties to their homelands. Some travel between cities and tribal land for family, culture, or ceremonies. But even travel isn't always simple. The Tohono O'odham Nation, for example, straddles the U.S.-Mexico border. Some members lack formal documents like birth certificates or passports. Border agents have stopped people on ancestral land, even when they're crossing from one part of their territory to another. Treaties add another layer to their legal identity. From the 1700s through the 1800s, the U.S. signed hundreds of treaties with tribes, often trading land for rights and protection. Some treaties promised healthcare, food, or access to land and water. But many promises were broken or ignored. The Navajo, for instance, signed a treaty in 1868. It was supposed to guarantee a permanent homeland and basic needs. Yet today, thousands still live without running water. In contrast, some tribes in California never signed treaties at all. For years, they weren't federally recognized and had no access to promised services. Legal status was meant to define Native people within the U.S. system, but in many cases, it only added confusion and inequality. Some tribes are empowered to govern themselves. Others are still fighting for basic recognition, and across all reservations, Native families face a system where laws shift depending on who they are and where they live. Do Native Americans deserve the same treatment and support as every other U.S. citizen? Share your thoughts in the comments. Our team needs your help. Subscribe to our channel to help more people learn the truth about current events. And now, we move on. Church in the ground. In the Arizona desert, east of Phoenix, there is a plateau called Oak Flat. For most Americans, it is just part of a national forest, but for the Apache people, it is sacred ground. This land, known in their language as Chichil-Bu-Dagotil, is where generations have held coming-of-age ceremonies, gathered medicine, and prayed. The site is tied to stories, spirits, and the survival of culture itself. For the San Carlos Apache tribe, it is not just a place, it is a living part of their identity. That identity is now under threat. A foreign-backed company called Resolution Copper wants to mine the land. They plan to dig one of the largest copper mines in North America, right under Oak Flat. The mine would remove so much earth that the ground would collapse into a massive crater. Everything on the surface, the trees, the trails, the sacred spaces, would be gone. The crater would be nearly 2 miles wide and over 1,000 feet deep. It would turn a living place of worship into a hole in the ground. The land is part of the Tonto National Forest. For decades, it was protected from mining. But in 2014, Congress approved a quiet land swap. The deal was buried inside a military budget bill passed without open debate. That law gave the federal land at Oak Flat to Resolution Copper in exchange for other parcels elsewhere. Tribal leaders say the land was taken without consent. The Apache never agreed, and they have been fighting to stop the mine ever since. Legal efforts have moved through the courts for years. The tribe argues that destroying Oak Flat violates their religious freedom. They say it is no different than bulldozing a cathedral or tearing down a mosque. But in 2025, the United States Supreme Court declined to hear their case. A lower court had already ruled that the land transfer did not block worship, even if the sacred ground would soon disappear. With that decision, the legal path grew narrower. The mine moved closer to reality. Still, the resistance has not ended. Apache leaders continue to raise their voices. Youth groups, spiritual leaders, and allies from across the country have joined their cause. Some lawmakers have introduced bills to cancel the land swap. Others have demanded new protections for sacred sites. But with powerful mining interests and federal silence, the outcome remains uncertain. Oak Flat has not yet been destroyed. But time is running out. Bulldozers could arrive within months. If that happens, the tribe will lose more than a place. They will lose part of their soul. A site where prayers have been whispered for centuries will collapse into dust and metal, and the country that promises religious freedom will again be asked who that freedom truly applies to. What do you think? Should the sacred site at Oak Flat be left alone, or should copper come first? Let us know in the comments. Now please take a moment to hit that like button. It's a small action, but it helps YouTube's algorithm promote our videos to a wider audience. Uranium poison. On the Navajo Nation, the land carries more than history. In many places, it carries poison. From the 1940s through the 1980s, the United States mined uranium across Navajo territory. The goal was to fuel nuclear weapons during the Cold War. Over those decades, mining companies removed nearly 30 million tons of uranium ore. But when the boom ended, they left behind a deadly legacy. More than 500 abandoned mines remain scattered across the reservation. These sites were never cleaned up. Radiation seeped into the soil, the air, and the groundwater. Families lived near the mines, unaware of the danger. Some built homes using leftover materials from mine debris. Children played in piles of radioactive dust. Livestock drank from contaminated springs. For decades, the federal government failed to act. The danger was invisible, but the health effects were not. Rates of cancer, lung disease, and kidney failure began to rise. One of the worst incidents came in 1979. At a uranium mill near Church Rock, New Mexico, a dam holding back radioactive waste suddenly broke. 90 million gallons of toxic water and sludge poured into the Puerco River. It became the largest radioactive spill in U.S. history, yet the event received little national attention. Navajo families downstream continued to use the water, unaware that it carried high levels of contamination. For years, tribal members asked for cleanup. They filed reports, held meetings, and told their stories. But funding was limited, and government agencies argued over responsibility. Meanwhile, generations of Navajo people continued to suffer. Some never knew the cause of their illness. Others buried relatives and quietly blamed the mines. The pain stretched across families, towns, and entire regions. Only in recent years has the government begun to act. In 2025, the Environmental Protection Agency approved a major cleanup at Church Rock. Crews will remove over 1 million cubic yards of radioactive waste from the site. This comes after nearly 2 decades of community pressure. It is one of the largest such cleanups ever attempted on tribal land, but it is only a start. Hundreds of other sites remain untreated. The uranium mined from Navajo lands helped build the U.S. nuclear arsenal. It powered bombs and reactors, but the people who lived on that land were never warned, protected, or compensated. They paid with their health and the safety of their homeland. Today, they are still waiting for full justice. Some survivors are aging, others have passed, and new generations are growing up with questions their elders cannot answer. The story of uranium on the Navajo Nation is not just about the past. It is about what happens when profits and power matter more than people. It is about what is left behind when the trucks stop running and the headlines fade. Should the U.S. do more to clean up the radioactive damage on native land? Tell us what you think in the comments. Share this video on X and Facebook to help us grow. Every share counts. Famous but indigenous. Many people never realize how many well-known figures have roots in Native American nations. Their heritage is often overlooked, even as they succeed in culture, politics, and activism. From Hollywood to music to literature, Native identity quietly shapes public life. Jason Momoa is best known as a superhero and action star, but his mother has Pawnee ancestry. He often speaks proudly of that connection and supports indigenous causes. He links his cultural roots to his passion for protecting land and water rights. Rita Coolidge rose to fame in the 1970s as a Grammy-winning singer. Her father was Cherokee, and her mother also had Cherokee heritage. She later co-founded a music group to celebrate Native identity and culture. Through her music, she brought attention to tribal traditions. Jimi Hendrix was a groundbreaking guitarist in the 1960s. His great-grandmother on his father's side was Cherokee. He often mentioned that connection and felt it shaped his creative spirit. His style blended rebellion and spirituality in a way that reflected his heritage. Lily Gladstone is an actress with Blackfeet and Nez Perce ancestry. She was raised on the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana. In recent years, she became the first Native woman nominated for a Best Actress Oscar. Her win at the Golden Globes was a landmark moment for representation. Wes Studi is a Cherokee actor who spent decades portraying Native stories on screen. He received an honorary Academy Award in 2019 for his career and cultural impact. His roles in films about Native history made him a respected voice in the industry. Joy Harjo is a poet and writer from the Muskogee Creek Nation. She became the first Native American to serve as Poet Laureate of the United States. Her poetry explores healing, memory, and the deep bond between people and the land. Sterlin Harjo is a filmmaker from the Seminole and Muskogee nations. He co-created a television series that shows the lives of modern Native teens. His work avoids stereotypes and brings authentic stories to a wide audience. These people prove that Native American identity is alive and evolving. They challenge outdated ideas and show that tribal heritage is part of modern success. Their work reaches beyond entertainment and speaks to issues of justice and survival. What other well-known Native American figures do you know? Let us know in the comments. Missing people. Across Native communities in the United States, people are disappearing. Women, men, and even children vanish with no clear trace. Many are never found. Some are discovered years later in shallow graves. Others remain missing forever. Their families are left without answers, without support, and without justice. This crisis has a name. In many places, it is called missing and murdered indigenous people. The scale of the problem is far greater than most Americans realize. Indigenous women face some of the highest rates of violence in the country. In certain areas, the rate of murder is 10 times higher than the national average. But this is not just about women. In the Navajo Nation, 73 people were listed as missing in 2025. Around 70% of them are men. The numbers are shocking, and yet the public rarely hears about them. One of the reasons is jurisdiction. On tribal land, the question of who investigates a crime is often unclear. It might be local tribal police, it might be state officers, it might be the FBI. In many cases, no one takes the lead. Families are told to wait, Files are lost or never opened. Even when evidence exists, it often goes unexamined. Time passes and hope fades. Another reason is neglect. Native people make up a small portion of the population. Their cases rarely make national news. When a white woman goes missing, it sparks headlines and search teams. When a Native person vanishes, it may be ignored completely. Some families have spent years searching alone. They organize search parties, make flyers, and collect information. In some communities, they act as their own investigators. Governments have started to respond, but many say it is not enough. In Arizona, a turquoise alert system was created to help locate missing indigenous people. Federal task forces have been launched and reports have been written, but on the ground, little has changed. The police still lack training and resources. Some reservations have only a few officers for hundreds of square miles. The roots of this crisis run deep. Historical trauma plays a role. Generations of forced removals, broken families, and government boarding schools left scars that never healed. High levels of poverty, addiction, and domestic violence only add to the danger. On many reservations, people feel forgotten. The danger is real, and so is the silence that follows when tragedy strikes. Still, the fight continues. Red handprints painted across the faces of women have become a symbol of resistance. Marches are held, names are read aloud, banners fly with images of the missing. Families demand to be heard. They want real investigations, real accountability, and protection for the next generation. They are not asking for sympathy, they are asking for justice. Should these crimes be investigated at the highest federal level? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Divided Nation. The Tohono O'odham Nation has lived in the desert region of southern Arizona for centuries. Their homeland stretches across what is now the United States and Mexico. But the land did not move. The border did. What once was a single territory is now divided by a wall, security checkpoints, and patrol roads. For the Tohono O'odham people, the border is not just a line. It is a wound that cuts through their culture and their lives. During Trump's first term as president, the federal government expanded the border wall deep into tribal land. Construction crews blasted through hills, deserts, and burial grounds. At Monument Hill, a site sacred to the tribe, explosives were used to clear space for a barrier. Tribal leaders said they were never consulted. The damage was permanent. Sacred places were turned into rubble. Springs that had been used for generations were drained to mix cement. The construction moved quickly. Environmental laws were waived. Cultural protections were ignored. Federal agencies treated tribal land as empty desert, not as a living community. Bulldozers arrived with little warning. Roads were carved through migration paths used by both people and animals. What had once been quiet ceremonial space became a corridor of steel and surveillance. For many tribal members, the most painful part is the human separation. Families now live on opposite sides of the wall. Some cannot attend funerals or visit relatives without going through government checkpoints. Others lack passports or birth certificates and risk arrest just for crossing their own land. Ceremonies held for generations in both directions are now restricted. What used to be a short walk is now a legal maze. The Tohono O'odham never gave up their rights to this land. Yet their concerns were dismissed. When tribal leaders raised alarms, the response was silence. They testified before Congress. They organized protests. Still, the wall rose higher. The border enforcement presence grew stronger. Cameras, drones, and towers now monitor a land that once belonged only to the people who lived there. Under the Biden administration, new wall construction was paused, but the damage had already been done. Hundreds of miles of steel barriers remain standing. The desert is scarred, the springs are gone, and the sacred spaces are lost. No plan exists to remove what was built, and no apology has been made to those who were affected. The land may never return to what it was. For the Tohono O'odham, the border was never meant to divide them. Their relatives, ceremonies, and memories exist on both sides. But now, they are forced to choose between security and tradition, between freedom and fear. A wall built in the name of safety has left an entire nation split in two. Should border security ever come at the cost of destroying native land and culture? Tell us in the comments. Grand Canyon Monument win. In the summer of 2023, a major victory took place in the canyons of northern Arizona. After years of pressure from tribal nations, the United States declared a new national monument around the Grand Canyon. The name is long but meaningful. It is called Baaj Navajo Ita Kukveni, which means where tribes roam and our ancestral footprints. The monument covers over 900,000 acres of sacred land. For many Native peoples, this land is more than beautiful scenery. It holds deep spiritual and historical meaning. The Havasupai, Hopi, Zuni, Navajo, and other tribes have lived in the Grand Canyon region for centuries. They hold ceremonies there. They gather plants, visit burial grounds, and walk the same trails their ancestors once used. The canyon is part of who they are, but for decades, this sacred area faced a growing threat. Mining companies pushed to open new uranium operations near the canyon. Some old mines already left behind pollution and poisoned springs. The tribes feared that without permanent protection, more damage was coming. Their biggest concern was water. The Havasupai people live at the bottom of the canyon and rely on springs that flow through ancient stone. If those springs were polluted, their entire way of life would be at risk. The federal government had placed a temporary ban on new uranium claims in 2012. But that ban could be lifted at any time. Tribal leaders wanted a long-term solution. They organized, testified in Congress, and built alliances. After more than a decade of work, their efforts paid off. President Biden signed the monument into law in August 2023. The ceremony included tribal representatives who spoke of the land not as a resource, but as a relative. The monument brings more than just protection. It also changes how the land will be managed. Tribal nations now have a voice in decisions about conservation, access, and education. This co-management model is rare in the United States. It reflects a growing shift toward honoring indigenous knowledge and leadership. The tribes will help oversee how the land is used and cared for. Still, the battle is not over. Some Arizona politicians and mining companies are challenging the monument in court. They argue that the land could bring economic development. They say the federal government acted without local consent. These lawsuits could drag on for years. But the tribes remain united. For them, this is not about money. It is about protecting what cannot be replaced. The creation of the monument is a sign of hope. It shows that tribal voices can be heard and respected. It shows that sacred land can be protected by law. And it shows that the future of conservation in the West may include the people who have lived there the longest. What do you think? Should more sacred indigenous land be protected through national monuments? Tell us your opinion in the comments. America's poorest county. In the heart of South Dakota lies the Pine Ridge Reservation, home of the Oglala Lakota Nation. On maps, it is listed as Oglala Lakota County. In national statistics, it is often called the poorest place in America. The land is vast and open, full of beauty and silence. But behind that silence are stories of hardship, loss, and survival. Much of that hardship began long before modern poverty. The Lakota once thrived in the Great Plains. Their spiritual and economic foundation was tied to the Black Hills, a sacred mountain range rich in meaning and resources. But after gold was discovered there, the United States seized the land in violation of treaties. The buffalo were slaughtered. The people were confined to small plots of land. Later came the boarding schools, where Native children were taken from their families and stripped of their language and identity. These wounds have not healed. Today, Pine Ridge faces deep economic struggles. The average income per person is around $8,700 per year. That is several times lower than the national average. Unemployment is high, often between 60 and 80%. Many families live below the poverty line without steady jobs, savings, or access to credit. For many residents, just finding gas money or clean clothes can be a daily challenge. Housing is overcrowded and often unsafe. Some homes shelter 3 or 4 generations under one roof. It is not uncommon for 10 or more people to live in a small trailer. Many homes lack proper insulation, heat, or even running water. Broken windows and leaking roofs are common. With limited housing options, families often rotate between homes or sleep on floors to stay together. Health conditions reflect these living challenges. Life expectancy on Pine Ridge is among the lowest in the United States, around 66 years. In past decades, the average for men was reported to be under 50. Diabetes, tuberculosis, and alcoholism are widespread. Suicide rates, especially among youth, are alarmingly high. Mental health care is scarce, and hospitals are underfunded. Some residents drive hours for basic treatment. Others simply go without. Yet amid all this, there is strength. The Lakota people continue to resist erasure. Cultural programs are growing. Schools are teaching the Lakota language again. Community gardens, art centers, and youth programs offer small but powerful signs of hope. Elders share stories. Youth reclaim traditions. Local leaders push for housing, jobs, and health clinics. The fight is not over. It is still going, one step at a time. This is not a forgotten land in some distant corner of the world. It is part of the United States. And the people who live there are not asking for pity. They are asking for fairness, dignity, and a future worth staying for. How can these communities be supported in a real and lasting way? Share your ideas in the comments. Now it's time to find out the correct answer to the quiz. What is the largest annual Native American festival in the U.S.? A. First Nations Festival. B. Spirit of the Land. C. Powwow USA. D. Gathering of Nations. The correct answer is D. Gathering of Nations. Gathering of Nations. Every year in late April, Albuquerque becomes the center of Native America. Thousands gather here not for protest, not for court, but to celebrate survival. The event is called the Gathering of Nations, and it is the largest powwow in North America. For many tribes, it is the most important moment of the year, and for many individuals, it is the reminder that their culture is not fading, it is dancing. The first Gathering of Nations was held in 1984 at the University of Albuquerque. It started small with just a few hundred dancers and singers. The idea came from Derek Matthews, a music producer and member of the Navajo Nation. He wanted to create a space where Native people from different tribes could come together to share traditions. Over time, the event outgrew campus buildings and moved to larger venues. Today, it takes place at the Tingley Coliseum and Expo grounds. It is organized by a nonprofit group and funded through a mix of ticket sales, private donations, and support from local sponsors. Over 500 tribes from across the United States and Canada now take part. Dancers arrive in full regalia, wearing feathers, beads, ribbons, and bells. Drummers and singers perform in powerful circles, their songs pass down through generations. Each beat carries memory. Each step carries meaning. The grand entry, where all dancers enter the arena together, is not just a performance, it is a statement. It says we are still here. The gathering is also home to the Miss Indian World pageant. But this is not a beauty contest. Contestants are judged by their knowledge of tribal history, traditions, and language. The winner becomes a cultural ambassador for Native youth. She travels across the country for a year, sharing stories, raising awareness, and showing young people that pride and purpose still walk hand in hand. Beyond the dance arena, visitors find rows of vendors and artists. Handmade jewelry, leather goods, woven baskets, and embroidered clothing fill the booths. Traditional food stands serve fry bread, stews, and corn dishes. It is more than a market. It is a space where craftsmanship and tradition are shared, not sold. What makes this gathering so powerful is not just its size, it is its contrast. Many who attend come from places of struggle, reservations without clean water, towns scarred by violence, families missing loved ones, and yet they arrive with their drums and feathers. They smile, they sing, they carry the weight of their ancestors. No one here forgets the past, but no one here lets it silence them either. For Native youth especially, the gathering is a source of pride. It connects them to a wider circle. It tells them they are part of something bigger than borders, policies, or statistics. In a world that often treats them as invisible, this space makes them seen. This is not a tourist attraction. It is not a reenactment. It is a living expression of people who never left. A nation within a nation, standing in unity for one weekend and sending a message that echoes far beyond it. Can cultural strength be the key to healing for Native communities? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for exploring the hidden corners of the USA with us. Click on the video you see on the screen to check out other hidden discoveries on our channel.